The FIFA World Cup is always seen as a stage where football's brightest stars will always shine brightest, and more often than not it will be players of experience, of pedigree, who can and will decide games for their countries. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that only players who are experienced or who are in the peak of their powers will be the ones who can impact games. In fact, as we've seen in this particular edition of the FIFA World Cup itself, younger players can and will make a difference for teams if they are given the chance, and perhaps more importantly, if they are talented enough and have the right mentality that is needed to succeed at the highest level of the game. So here we are going to look at five very young players, all of whom shone brightest for their respective national teams, irrespective and irregardless of how it is that their national teams fared. At number 5, and by the way, this is no ranking of sorts, it's basically just 5 players who we've put, and there is no ranking order here, but we're just picking out 5 really bright stars who shone and showed that they could very well be the future, not just for their country but also their club. So first off, we have Josko Gvardiol. Now, unfortunately, the Croatian defender has become or gained a little bit of infamy for being the man who got spun multiple times by Lionel Messi en route to Argentina making the final. Remember Messi's wonder assist where he jinked past a particular player. That player just unfortunately happened to be Gvardiol, but that should not take away from the fact that despite being very, very young, Gvardiol has in fact been the linchpin of the Croatian defense and a very key reason why they actually ended up making it as far as the semi-finals in the first place. In fact, you would remember that before the World Cup, even in this year's summer transfer window, Gvardiol was one of those defenders who was being targeted by a number of clubs, and actually there was a formal bid launched by Chelsea only to be rejected, and then he was handed a contract by his club, Red Bull, I think it's Red Bull, RB Leipzig, yes. And he was handed a new contract, but he still remains highly coveted by all of Europe's top clubs. So it'll be very, very interesting to see where it is that he heads either this January or potentially next summer, because now he's proven that he can be that player on the biggest stage as well. At number 4, we have Aurelien Tchouameni. Again, this is someone who has, despite his young age, has already attracted the attention of not just the biggest clubs in the world, but arguably one of the biggest, because just this summer, or the previous summer, he had signed for Real Madrid. Now, obviously, Tchouameni is someone who, for longest of times, has been seen as someone who would be the natural, the heir apparent to someone like Paul Pogba. And in fact, in the absence of Pogba in this particular World Cup, he got his chance to shine for France, and he's absolutely taken that chance with both hands. In fact, remember, he scored that wonderful goal against England, but even beyond just that goal, he's been a very assured presence in midfield, very creative. He knows when it is to make what pass. He puts in a shift, making him already, despite his very young age, arguably a very complete midfielder and someone who France can rely on for at least the next decade or so to come. And at this age, he has already driven his national team to their second successive World Cup final. Whether or not he can win it is irrelevant, because there are very, very big things that are in the future of Tchouameni. There's also, by the way, speaking of talented midfielders in this list, just a hint, is dominated by them. Another one who proved his mettle is Jude Bellingham. Now, the 18-year-old Englishman has been proving just how good he is for current club Borussia Dortmund, but of course there were always question marks over whether or not he could translate that success and be the player for England on the biggest of stages. Not only was he arguably their best player in this particular World Cup, it's frightening to think just how good he can become given he's only 18 years old, yet already seems to possess an all-round game. Again, like someone like Tchouameni, he's someone who has a very, very complete game. He's a very good passer, he's very good at driving the ball, his defensive awareness is top-notch, his work rate is excellent, and he can score some absolutely fantastic goals. In fact, with players like him and Phil Foden, England can actually rest easy knowing the success should come well, considering the kind of talent it is that they've got, even though the 2022 FIFA World Cup was a pretty disappointing affair for them. The one player arguably from that entire bunch who can hold his head up high is this 18-year-old boy, Jude Bellingham. There's also, speaking as I said of talented midfielders, and again midfielders plying their trade in Germany, this man Jamal Musiala. Now again, Musiala is someone who has been making waves for a club like Bayern Munich, no less, in the Bundesliga, and his talent has always been evident. He's someone who can play as a very attacking number 8. He's got goals, he's got assists, he can press, he has a high defensive work rate. Again, that all-round midfield game is already there in the youngster, and again, despite the fact that Germany ended up crashing out of the group stages for the second straight time, remember 2018 too, when they were defending champions, they got knocked out in the group stages. This time too, it was the same fate that awaited them. Musiala was the one player who everyone was impressed watching. Such was the kind of impact that he had on all of Germany's games. Even though Germany struggled a lot with their all-round game, and some blame must undoubtedly lay at the coaching staff and some at the players, there is no fault that is to be picked in the game of this young man, who again seems to be an assured star for the German team for at least another decade to come. And of course, we cannot forget about this man, Julian Alvarez. Again, coming into the 2022 FIFA World Cup, Alvarez was not a guaranteed starter either for his club or for his country. In fact, Lautaro Martinez was the preferred striker alongside Messi in the lineup, and the other attacking midfielder or the winger that Argentina preferred playing was, of course, Papu Gomez. This time around, however, Alvarez has become the undisputed number 1 striker through this World Cup, and it's easy to see why. His energy brings a lot to that front line. He makes some very good runs. His link-up play is excellent, and perhaps most importantly, he knows how to score plenty of goals. In fact, he's already scored 4 in this particular World Cup. He's gotten these assists too, and his link-up play with Messi is marvelous to say the least. Thus, it is no surprise. Normally, I would say that, big clubs would be flocking for him, but he's already playing for Manchester City, where again, he doesn't really get to start games because unfortunately there is someone called Erling Haaland who is there. But one gets the feeling that you're going to be seeing him playing a lot more games, whether as a central striker or someone coming off the wing, once this World Cup is over. And I think Guardiola knew exactly what he was signing when he signed him, and it could very well prove to be one of the bargains of the decade, considering just how cheap it was that City managed to sign this man for. And that's our list when it comes to, of course, the 5 players who have lit up this particular FIFA World Cup. Let us know in the comments below if you have any other young player that really caught your eye in this tournament. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap that bell icon so you know when we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Then you can also go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And last but not least, download the AajTak app for all of the great sports coverage, as well as coverage from the FIFA World Cup and highlights from the FIFA World Cup in your language of choice, whether it be English or Hindi. Thank you all once again for joining us. Goodbye and take care.